that okay?
No, I think go back a bit so that other light. So right back to the wall, I reckon.
Like up there?
Yeah. Like, don't hit that wall. Joking.
No.
That's better.
Better? Okay. So I start? Hello, Internet. Welcome back to our channel. Thank you for being here. If you're new here, hi, welcome. If you're not, you're probably used to our craziness. Anyway, so we are, I don't really know, Peter hasn't really told me what we're doing, but I do know that we just posted a video with Maddie and we got a few questions in the comments, and Peter's really bad at typing, so he thought that it would be much better if he just answered you in a video. And yeah.
Well, it's not as confusing if I show.
Yeah, that as well. It's probably like a better answer as well, because then you get to see.
I did answer and someone then wanted to take me to task on the answer, so if I show, then they actually...
Then they get to see, and then, because if someone's asking a question, there's probably a bunch of other people out there who have the same question. So
yeah.
We're just going to like hit everyone like a shotgun. I'll throw it to Peter.
So yeah, we did this shoot yesterday, actually, a couple of days ago, and it was for a bigger shoot that we did on Inspire, which is more getting people to understand all the things you can do with one light. So what the question was I had a couple. Number one was, what happens if my flash doesn't go off? Like, how bright is this place? Because you're seeing this lit for Beck's video, not lit for what the flash is doing. So the first thing I'm going to do is just show you what we get if the flash doesn't go off. We get a black screen. So none of the ambient light in this has any effect to the picture at all. So we're shooting at f8, 160th of a second and 100 ISO. Now with this camera, I can go up to 2,000th of a second, 800th of a second shutter speed with this lens, which means if my ambient light gets too strong, I can always dial it back out with my shutter speed, because it'll sync. The next question we asked was, the person didn't have a softbox that big and wondered, can he get the same effect using a smaller light? So I answered yes. The shadow was caused by the direction of light, not so much how large the softbox is. And I had somebody else say no, 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 no. So what I'm going to do is show you, I'm just going to set up this shot with this light, which is based on what we had with Maddie, and then I'm going to change the size of the softbox to show that I can still do the same thing with a smaller softbox. And it's more getting people to understand that size matters but doesn't matter. It depends. If you're using a light straight on, it matters more, but once you start turning a light off axis, it doesn't matter as much.
It depends how you use it.
Beck. I was going to do a joke over there and I thought, no, that's just too appropriate. And then Beck does the same joke. Anyway, let's ignore Beck. So we've got the amazing Rara and we've styled her up with my metal jacket and a pair of little Kate Moss boots. And we should put a link for the guy in LA does these. These are amazing. I love that guy. So you'll see the whole idea of this lighting setup, for anybody who didn't watch the other one, was we have got shadow, light, shadow. Now what it is the light here, and it might be best if I show over here. So once we get the edge of this softbox is casting the shadow. So I can't see any of the white of the softbox, so this is where the shadow of that softbox is. So then I can see light, I can see the softbox, it comes through, then it hits Rara, and then she casts a shadow there. So that allows me to get that haloing effect, which I like. So with this now, I normally use other ways of getting a halo, but this allows me to light the model beautifully and light my background the way. So you'll see that the shadow down here is a little bit lower. You see it doesn't quite go quite as high. So that's what it's showing. So that's the shadow line that's cast by the edge of the softbox, and that shadow there is cast by Rara. Now, yesterday I used a bit of clarity in some other things today. Clarity's turned to 0, not using it all. I put a slightly stronger down curve. So if I turn off my settings, that's just straight out of, or fully straight out of camera is that. And you'll see I've she's a bit shiny on the forehead, but that's still only sitting around 243. So with this, the black and white is because it's me. And I pulled a down curve. See how it goes chromy, because the down curve just in those highlights gives me that more chromy edge. And then I've put a little bit more, I put a little bit of shadow fill and a little bit of contrast in there to finish the shot. Because I try and get my shots as close to finish as I can in my raws. 90% of what I've done here, you could do with CaptureOne. So this could, all the settings I've used there should be fine. So I think CaptureOne have now brought in a black fills, which would allow me to do the shadow fill that I'm doing here. So now that I've got that, I'll take one more picture and then I'm going to start changing the size of the box. You on your dot? You're on your dot? Or have you come forward? That's all right, cool. The other thing I showed a little bit, but yes, on the other tutorial, if we got that picture there, I can change where the shadows are. So if I want the shadow from the front to be further away from her, I only have to move my, I don't know, oh yeah, I can remember where I am. I can, if I bring my camera over a little bit, cool. You'll see that the shadow in front of her has given her more room and the shadow behind her is tighter. So I'm just going back to where I was. I'll just do that again. So the difference between those two shots is there was the original shot. If you look at the shadow behind her, they're about the same distance apart, and we come to the next one, you'll see this shadow's moved in slightly and this shadow's moved that way slightly. Cool, so what I'm going to do is take this out and try and put another light in its place. So I understand lots of people aren't going to have this light. Just see my lines there and the center is there, cool. Lots of photographers are not going to have a softbox this big on a stand like this in their lounge room or garage. It's just be a nightmare. So I'm going to come back to if I was having to do this when we're traveling, which means I have to have, I can only use what I can fit into a suitcase. So I've just set up, this is what we travel with. So this is a Profoto, it's silver inside, they call it a umbrella deep silver medium. And it just has a sock on the front of it. This is pretty much what we travel with because this will fit into a suitcase. So I've put this, I worked out my spot of where it is. I knew it was running on a slight angle to this wall. We have, so this shot here was with the big octa. So hopefully I haven't bumped the camera or anything. I come in and just focus on that. Cool. It's really nice. Right. And you'll see that the difference between those, I've got a fraction, might be a fraction brighter. So most likely need to bring the light closer to bring that shadow around. I might just bring it a tiny bit. So the further I bring it this way, the further that shadow will come back in to Rara. Yeah, you'll see that just moved in a bit. But you can see I'm getting the same light as I got earlier by just coming down from the big octa to an umbrella. So now I'm going to go to the next extreme and I'm going to come off the umbrella and I'm going to a little, it's basically a little beauty dish, a collapsible beauty dish, but I've just left the scrim on the sock on the front so we can use it more like a little miniature little softbox. Push it right in. So I think it was slight. I think that's roughly where it is. Power-wise, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I'll just snap that off. We'll have a look at what happens. I think it's been smaller. No, power's nearly about the same, but all right, our shadow over this side has got a little bit heavier and more concentrated, but the shadow on this wall hasn't changed. So the shadow being cast by this box hasn't changed. We've just got a more concentrated shadow down here. I'm just thinking of how I diffuse that more. I can't feather it more because it's going to move this shadow. If Rara goes further back, the shadow is going to come closer. If I maybe go a little bit further back with this light, don't turn it up. So I've moved this light back a little bit closer to the shadow, which to Rara, which should pull that shadow in, pull that shadow just slightly separate it, and see it's taken some of the power off that. So this is just a little short one to show you the best thing I can explain this with. If you're pointing the light straight at a model and you're changing the size of the octa box or from small to large, your shadows are going to get a lot harsher. But when we come to things like this, you've got to remember, if Rara's standing here, she's being lit by that amount of light. But once the light hits here, it spreads. So this is still spreading right down to the floor and right up that wall. So we're going to get the same spread by shining the light across that way. The shadows are going to spread the same way as if we use the big octa. The big difference with the octa is the distance across there. When I'm lighting like here, I have a much softer gradient to feather with. So that's why I tend to use the bigger octa. It just gives me such a softer feather compared to something that's small. The feathering this is like really harsh as I start coming onto the face. So,
don't drop it.
I won't drop it.
I don't know, just making me, don't do that. Yeah, we hope you enjoyed that and learnt about lights. And as Peter mentioned, there is a full in-depth one if you are struggling with one light, or if you only have one light and want to know how to use it, head over to Inspire and have a look at that. And we will see you guys soon. I don't know what to say. I think it's just because we did them the other day, so I'm like, I feel like I've already said everything, but that was like 2 whole days ago. So I'll just stop talking now.